To make lemon curd, you need 2 lemons, 2 eggs, 100 grams of caster sugar and 50 grams of butter. And the first thing that I'm going to do is prepare my lemons, and I need the zest and the juice of these lemons. So using the smallest size holes on the grater, so these tiny ones here, I'm just going to grate the lemons, which I've already washed and dried. And to do your lemons, the idea is to just grate them a couple of times and then turn the lemon. What you want to do is to just lift off the coloured part of the skin, which has all the natural lemon oils in and gives the flavour. What you don't want to do is to take the pith, which is underneath there, the white part, which is bitter and will not make the lemon curd taste nice. So I'm just going to keep going with this, but you can see I'm just lifting off the very thinnest layer of lemon on the outside. I've done one of my lemons, this one, and you can see it's a little bit paler than the other one, but I have not removed any of the white pith, so I'm just going to complete both the lemons. Right, I've grated both my lemons, and as you can see, I don't have a very large pile of lemon rind on my board. That's what I would expect, but inside my grater there's quite a lot of lemon rind, so using the back of a knife I'm just going to get all that lemon rind out from inside the grater, and then again using the back of the knife, there's a lot of lemon caught in the grater, so I'm just going to use the back of the knife, follow the lines on the grater and scrape as much of that lemon rind out as I can, so that I've got as much lemon rind as possible. It never looks like very much, considering I've done 2 lemons here. It doesn't look like a great deal of rind, but as it's got all the natural oils in, it will be really strong. So my lemon rind I'm just going to add to the bowl with the sugar and the butter. And now what I need to do is cut my lemons in half this way, and I'm just going to squeeze the juice of both lemons. If you want to, you can do this with oranges rather than lemons, but if you're going to use oranges, you would still need the rind of 2 oranges, but because oranges are so much bigger than lemons, you only need the juice of 1, or your lemon curd will not set. So I've squeezed the juice of 1 lemon, and I'm going to add that to my bowl. But because you can quite often get very small pips in lemons, which I don't want to be part of my lemon curd, I'm just going to put this through a sieve. Saves me trying to catch all the pips that are in there. I've got the pips in my sieve, and then I'll do the other one. Put the lemon rind of both, lemon juice of both into my bowl. The next ingredient that I'm going to use is my eggs. And before I put the eggs into the lemon curd, this is what's going to thicken your lemon curd and make it set. The coagulation and denaturation of the proteins will allow this to set. I just need to beat these lightly with a fork. So 2 eggs into a bowl, beat lightly with a fork, and then you have a choice. You can either tip these straight on top of your lemon sugar, lemon zest, butter mixture, or I like to sieve mine first, and the reason I like to sieve them, the chalaze in the eggs, the thick bit of the white, that holds the yolk in the middle and away from the egg shell to prevent it from picking up bacteria and disease, sometimes doesn't get broken down when you whisk. But if you sieve, you can get rid of that. It doesn't take that long to sieve eggs, although it sounds a bit weird. You can get rid of that and it makes the lemon curd really nice and smooth. And I have all of my ingredients in a large heat-proof bowl, because this is going to go on top of a saucepan of water. So my eggs are nearly through. As I said, you don't have to sieve your eggs. I've done it both ways. It will work both ways. It is your choice and it will be up to how much time you've got. This is going to sit on top of a saucepan of boiling water to be cooked. And I've chosen a saucepan which is small enough that my bowl will not actually touch the water when I've got it in there. So I'm just going to get some water up to the boil in there, put that on the top and get this on to start cooking. Okay, the water in my saucepan has just come up to the boil and you can see the saucepan is not full. I don't want the boiling water to touch the bottom of my bowl, and I'm just going to turn that down. I want it to continue boiling, but I don't want it to be too hot, because what I don't want to make is lemon scrambled eggs. So this mixture goes on top of the bowl and you need to stir it continuously. You'll find, to start off with, what you're waiting for is the sugar to dissolve and the butter to melt. But what you don't want to happen is that you walk away, leave this, and you end up with scrambled egg. So it needs to be a nice gentle heat, and that way you will not scramble the eggs. You should end up with something that thickens slowly all the way through, and you just have to continue stirring until the lemon curd is done. I'm just waiting for the last little bit of the butter to melt, but I can feel that the sugar is dissolved, and then I've just got to keep stirring this until it's thickened. When you're stirring, you'll find that this will cook more quickly if you stir a few times in one direction and then change direction. So don't keep stirring always in the same direction. You build up a convection current. If you only go in one direction, then the heat doesn't get evenly distributed through your lemon curd. You need to change direction. So a few turns clockwise and then change and go anti-clockwise until the mixture starts to thicken. Okay, the lemon curd is thickened. You can see in the bowl it's a lot thicker than what it was. And if you're not sure if it's thick enough, what you can do, I can actually see it on the top, but if you're not sure and you want to double check, just get a little bit, put it onto a plate, and what you should be able to do is push your finger through the middle of the lemon curd, and it shouldn't run back, so you should be able to see a clean line. So that's done, and I need to get it off the heat before it cooks too much. I've removed the lemon curd from the heat, and I'm just going to stir it just for a minute or two until it's started to cool down a bit, because I don't want it to be too thick at the bottom. And that took me about 7 to 8 minutes to get the lemon curd to cook. I'm going to leave it in the bowl because I'm going to use this straight away in my recipe. If you were going to keep it, what you could do is get a small glass jar, clean glass jar that you've sterilised inside, and pour your lemon curd straight into the glass jar. You can buy little wax discs that you put on the top to help make a seal, but in a small jar like that it will keep in the fridge, and they do make nice presents. To make the meringue roulade for the lemon meringue, you need a Swiss roll tin which has been greased and lined, and I've lined it by cutting the corners of the greaseproof paper in the same way as you would for a Swiss roll, so that it's nice and even. And the first thing that I need to do is to separate my eggs. It's really important when you're making meringue that you don't get any egg yolk in with your egg white, or your meringue will not whisk. So the first egg that I am going to break, and I need 4 eggs for this particular recipe, I'm going to put onto a plate. Use an egg cup or anything else that is small, and I'm going to tip the egg up on the plate, having put my little egg cup really close to the egg white. When I tip it up, the egg white falls into the bowl, and I have just the egg yolk in my egg cup, and I'm going to put that into a separate little bowl so that I keep those separate. If you don't have an egg cup, you can do your eggs in the egg shell. Because I've got 4 eggs and I don't want to waste all 4, I'm doing each egg onto a plate, and then if unfortunately I break the very last egg yolk just before it goes into the bowl with the egg whites, I haven't wasted 4 egg whites and 4 whole eggs. I can just replace the 1 egg. So a second egg yolk in there and the egg white into the bowl. And it's always a good idea to do this one at a time so that you don't waste your eggs. So this is number 3. Yolk in with the other yolks, and I don't know if you could see that, but as I dropped that yolk in there it broke. But I just have 3 egg whites in there, and the last one, slightly different. I am just going to catch this one in my hand. It's another way of doing your eggs. It's entirely up to you which way you choose to do it, but you can just then allow the egg white to drip through your fingers, put your egg yolk in there. So I have 4 egg whites in my bowl, and I am going to use my electric mixer and whisk these up on their own until I've got nice stiff meringue. What's important when you're making meringue is that you whisk your egg whites enough to start with. These egg whites now look quite nice and fluffy, but if I tip the bowl you can see they're moving around the bowl. You need to whisk these until they're so stiff that they will not move around the bowl. Okay, I've whisked my egg whites a little bit more. They're really stiff, and I can actually turn my bowl upside down without the meringues going anywhere. Now I need to start adding my caster sugar. For 4 egg whites I'm going to use 225 grams of caster sugar, and I want to get roughly half of this sugar into the egg whites with my electric mixer. But I'm not going to just put it all in one go. What I'm going to do is add it a little bit at a time, whisk until my meringue is really, really stiff, and then add a little bit more. That's the first lot of sugar whisked in, and I don't know if you can see, but it's starting to get a more meringue consistency. It looks a little bit like marshmallow. It's nice, it's gone shiny, and it's still thick. But that was just the first spoonful of sugar, and I need to get about 100 grams of sugar into this, so I'm just going to add some more, whisk again until I've got half of the sugar in. But I still want my meringue to be that stiff when I've finished it. Okay, you can see I've put my sugar in 4 lots, and it does look very much like marshmallow. You need to stop after you've got the first half of the sugar in. You need to stop with your electric mixer and swap to a spoon. Because this meringue roulade, I want it to have a little bit of a pavlova-y texture. I want it to be quite gooey in the middle. I am just going to add into here a teaspoon of white vinegar. Doesn't matter if it's malt vinegar, but the white vinegar is nice. And a teaspoon of corn flour. And when you put the vinegar in, it does smell quite strong of vinegar, but it's not going to taste in the end. It just helps to set your meringue. And I'm going to sprinkle, that's a bit lumpy, about half of the sugar that I've got left on the top, and I'm just going to fold that in. And as you fold this in, hopefully you're going to evenly mix the corn flour, the vinegar, and a little bit more sugar into there. So that doesn't take long to actually get that mixed through. And the rest of my sugar is just going to be stirred in. If you wanted to do this lemon and almond at this stage, you could add 50 grams of ground almonds if you wanted to, just for something different. But I've got all of my sugar into there, and I'm just going to now tip this into the tin. So you need to try and make sure that you get all of your meringue mixture into the tin, and you can see it's really fluffy and like marshmallow. And to help me get that out, I'm just going to use my spatula, because I'd like all of that meringue in the tin. Okay, this is quite a thick mixture, so you're going to need to spread it across the bottom of the tin and try and keep it even. This goes into an oven, fan oven, 150 degrees, and it's going to take about 30 to 35 minutes to cook. What you're looking for when it's done is a nice golden brown top, but we want the meringue underneath to be soft because we're going to roll it. So a nice crisp brown top, but not dried out all the way through, a nice soft meringue underneath so that it is easy to roll. You can spread it a little bit. It's not like a cake, it's not going to find its own level, so you do need to try and even that off. And just to make sure, if you just drop it a couple of times, you'll get rid of any large lumps. So that's now going to go into the oven to cook. The meringue roulade is cooked. It's a light golden brown on the top, and it's just going to stay in the tin to cool. And while it cools, I'm just going to cover with another bit of baking parchment and a damp tea towel, and I'm just going to leave that to cool until I am ready to put the roulade together. Okay, to finish my roulade, I've just taken the piece of greaseproof paper that I had underneath the damp tea towel off the top of it, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of icing sugar on there, and then flip the cool roulade out onto the paper. And I'm going to do it on paper because it will make it easier for me to roll. So the roulade is cooled, and it just needs flipping out onto the paper, and then the paper can be peeled off, and it should come off quite easily. I've lightly whipped my cream, and my lemon curd has set. Now you can swirl the two together if you want, or you can put them on separately. But today I think I'm going to put lemon curd on first and then some cream on the top. So I'm going to use the whole batch of lemon curd that I made and just spread that up to the edges of the roulade. Okay, so I've got lemon curd in there and then some lightly whipped cream. I'm just going to blob the cream a bit because the lemon curd makes it a bit more difficult to spread, and when this is rolled up, it's quite a thick roulade. It doesn't matter really if it's not cream everywhere. I don't want to go too close to the edges because I don't want to make too much of a mess when I roll it out, but as it gets rolled it will spread a little bit. If you want to, you can trim the edges of this roulade before you start to roll, but I quite like the crunchy edges on it, so I'm just going to leave the crunchy edges, get my cream in there, and as I say, it doesn't have to be perfectly spread, it just has to be in the roulade. And then it's a question of rolling. So start at a short end and press down lightly, and you can see the cream mixture, the cream and the lemon curd is all being pushed up to the end of the roulade. Don't worry if your roulade cracks, and I'm actually pulling the paper up to help get the roulade finished. So once I've rolled it all the way to there and I can feel that that's the edge of the roulade, I'm just going to pick it up and put it straight onto my plate before I take the paper off. This really could do with going in the fridge for a little while to chill, but I am just going to finish it again with a little dusting of icing sugar, and then I will clean up my worktop. So that's the completed lemon meringue roulade, and at the end, when this is chilled, I'll cut a slice so that you can actually see the swirl inside, but it makes quite a big roulade and it's quite impressive for your exam.